Imagine fascism taking over America. But according to author Hedges, it probably won't march in wearing swastikas. It'll actually come wrapped in the American flag, holding a Christian cross. Welcome. Today we're exploring the essential insights from Hedges' book, American Fascists, and we're pulling out the most vital ideas for your reflection. You're experiencing a unique two-voice conversation presented by Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go.
Yeah, it's a really chilling image, and the author brings sort of fascinating perspective here. Hedges is a Harvard Divinity School graduate, so he critiques what's known as the dominionist movement right from inside the Christian tradition.
Right, which gives him, a very unique credibility.
For context, dominionism is essentially a push to govern all of public life by a strict conservative interpretation of biblical law. But the book argues this is not a religious movement at all. It's actually a political mass movement seeking state power.
Wait, so if it's a political movement, how are they convincing millions of everyday believers to, sign up for a political takeover? I mean, that's a huge question.
Well, the root of the recruitment strategy is socioeconomic. The movement really exploits the despair caused by deindustrialization, economic insecurity, and the collapse of local communities. When people lose their jobs and their social fabric frays, they desperately seek a sense of belonging and stability.
So it's almost like they're offering a dangerous painkiller for a very real societal wound. Like, they provide community, but the side effect is total political compliance.
Precisely. The author implies that when people are stripped of their dignity, they become highly vulnerable to authoritarian movements. These movements promise absolute answers and clearly define enemies.
They trade the burden of individual freedom for the comfort of absolute certainty, which makes total sense as a recruitment tool.
It really does.
But how does the movement maintain that level of control once those vulnerable people are actually inside? Untangling those exact mechanisms is what we aim to do here on this deep dive, where Mindful Moments turns powerful books into clear, rational conversations for readers, students, and educators.
So the primary mechanism for maintaining control is constructing a completely closed information system. The book cites the Creation Museum as a prime example of this strategy.
Right.
It's not just presenting an alternative viewpoint. It takes the language and aesthetics of science, things like dioramas, plaques, fossils, and uses them to validate a strictly literal biblical worldview. It basically trains people to actively reject empirical scientific consensus.
Well, I want to push back on that a little bit. Every political campaign bends the truth, right? How is this closed information loop any different from standard political spin?
That's a fair question, but it's different, because standard political spin still operates within the framework of rational debate. The book suggests this movement demands a categorical rejection of the Enlightenment.
Oh, so a total rejection of reason itself.
Yes, exactly. It creates a parallel reality where facts simply don't matter, only obedience to the ideology matters. In this framework, disagreement isn't viewed as a simple debate over policy. Disagreement is literally branded as treason against God.
That is a terrifying escalation. If rational debate is completely off the table, how must a democratic society even respond to a movement like this?
Well, the author applies Karl Popper's paradox of tolerance to answer that. The paradox basically states that if an open society extends unlimited tolerance to an intolerant movement, the tolerant society will ultimately be destroyed.
Because the intolerant group will use the freedoms of the open society to dismantle it from within.
Exactly. They use democratic tools to destroy democracy.
Does that mean liberal institutions are required to draw a hard line just to survive?
The book argues exactly that. It states that democratic institutions must stop treating this movement as a normal, good-faith participant in a pluralistic society.
That certainly challenges how we view the intersection of faith and politics. Before we wrap up, we encourage you to examine the architecture of this book further by exploring the analysis, summary, and critique formats available for this work.
And here are questions to carry into your own reading. How do we distinguish between genuine religious expression and political movements that demand total submission? And what are the actual boundaries of tolerance in a free society?
To explore more, click the on-screen link for related essential insights, summary, analysis, and critique deep dives. You can subscribe, share, and purchase the book via the link to read along. Keep thinking rationally, explore the genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments, and nourish your mind on the go.
And as you reflect on all of this, consider one final thought. If a movement demands you abandon your capacity for independent thought in exchange for salvation, what are they really saving you from?